What if you invest $100 per month for 10 years? Let's just get straight into it. $100 a month. That's it. That's the whole premise of this article. No trust fund, no crypto moonshot, no secret stock tip from your cousin's friend who knows a guy. Just $100 once a month for 10 years. So what actually happens? Is it life-changing money? Or is it a rounding error? Stick with me because the answer is more interesting than you'd think, and it's going to change how you look at your own spending habits by the end of this. The boring math first. Let's start with the part that requires zero investment knowledge at all. If you set aside $100 every single month for 10 years, you are putting in $1,200 a year. Multiply that by 10 and you get $12,000. That's your total contribution. $12,000 out of your own pocket spread out over a decade. On its own, that's not a huge number. It's roughly the price of a used car, or a couple of nice vacations, or one very stressful semester of college tuition. But here's the thing. That $12,000 isn't just going to sit there. If you're investing it instead of stuffing it under a mattress, it's going to grow. And that growth is where this story actually gets interesting. Enter compound interest. You've probably heard the phrase compound interest is the eighth wonder of the world. Whether or not Einstein actually said that is debated, but the sentiment holds up. Here's the simple version. When you invest money, it can earn a return. That return then gets added to your original investment. Now your original investment is bigger. So the next round of returns is calculated on a bigger number. It's a snowball rolling downhill, and every rotation it picks up a little more snow. The catch is that in the early years, the snowball is small, so the growth feels almost invisible. Most people quit right around the point where the snowball is about to start rolling faster. That's the tragedy of most abandoned investment plans. They stop right before the good part. Let's run the actual numbers. Okay, enough theory. Let's plug in some real numbers and see what $100 a month could turn into over 10 years, depending on the rate of return. I'm going to show you a few scenarios because nobody can promise you an exact return, and anyone who does is selling you something. At a 6% average annual return, your $12,000 in contributions could grow to roughly $16,400. At an 8% average annual return, that same $12,000 could grow to roughly $18,300. At a 10% average annual return, you're looking at roughly $20,500. At a 12% average annual return, the total climbs to roughly $23,000. Take a second and look at that range again. Somewhere between $16,000 and $23,000, built from $12,000 of your own money, plus whatever the market decided to hand you along the way. That gap between contributions and total value, that's the free money. That's compounding doing its job. Now, quick reality check because I promised you real talk and not hype. The stock market does not move in a smooth, predictable line. Some years it's up 20%. Some years it's down 15%. These percentages I gave you are long-term averages, not guarantees, and past performance is never a promise of future results. Nobody can hand you a crystal ball, and anyone claiming otherwise should make you suspicious. Why the first few years feel like nothing? Here's something almost nobody tells you when you start investing small amounts. The first 2 or 3 years are going to feel pointless. You'll check your account, see a few $100s of growth and think, is this really worth it? That feeling is completely normal, and it's also exactly why so many people quit too early. Compounding is backloaded. The majority of the growth in a 10-year plan tends to happen in the back half, not the front half. Think of it like filling a swimming pool with a garden hose. For a long time it looks like nothing is happening. Then one day you look over and the water is suddenly near the top. The hose didn't speed up. The pool just had more surface area covered by the same flow. Investing small amounts consistently works the same way. What this actually buys you in real life. Numbers on a screen are one thing. Let's translate this into something more tangible. $20,000 could be a solid down payment on a car, paid in cash, no loan, no interest payments eating you alive. It could be a meaningful chunk of a house down payment, especially paired with other savings. It could cover a year of a kid's college tuition at a state school. It could be the seed money for a small business. Or it could just sit there and become part of a much bigger pile 10 years later, when you're closer to retirement and actually need it. The point isn't that $100 a month makes you rich. It doesn't. And anyone who tells you otherwise is lying to you. The point is that it turns, I can't afford to invest into I already started. The coffee comparison, but actually useful this time. You've probably seen the tired old argument about skipping your daily coffee to get rich. I'm not going to do that to you because honestly, a $5 latte a few times a week is not what's keeping anyone from building wealth. But the underlying idea isn't wrong, it's just poorly aimed. $100 a month works out to about $3.30 a day. That's genuinely small. It's a subscription you forgot to cancel. It's one impulse purchase you didn't need. It's not about deprivation. It's about redirecting money that's already slipping through the cracks and giving it a job to do. What if you push a little harder? Since we're already here, let's peek at what happens if you increase the monthly amount because the difference is honestly kind of wild. At an assumed 8% average annual return over the same 10 years, $100 a month grows to roughly $18,300. $200 a month grows to roughly $36,600. $300 a month grows to roughly $54,900. $500 a month grows to roughly $91,500. Notice that the growth scales in a straight line with your contribution because the rate of return stays the same. Doubling your monthly amount roughly doubles your ending balance. That's useful to know because it means this isn't some special trick reserved only for $100. It's a formula that works at whatever level you can actually commit to. The real magic isn't the specific number. It's starting with a number you can stick with for the entire 10 years without flinching. What if you give it more time instead? Time is the other lever here, and it might be even more powerful than the amount you contribute. Let's stick with $100 a month at an 8% average annual return, and just change the timeline. Over 10 years, that grows to roughly $18,300. Over 20 years, that grows to roughly $58,900. Over 30 years, that grows to roughly $149,000. Look at that jump between year 20 and year 30. You didn't triple your monthly contribution. You just gave the snowball 10 more years to roll downhill. This is why financial folks are so obsessed with telling young people to start early. It's not because young people have more money. It's because they have more time, and time is the ingredient compounding needs most. Where people actually put this money. I'm not going to tell you exactly what to buy because that depends on your own situation, your risk tolerance, and honestly things I don't know about your life. But broadly speaking, when people talk about investing smaller recurring amounts like this, they're often talking about things like index funds, retirement accounts, or other diversified, low-cost investment vehicles. The appeal of these options is that you're not betting on one single company. You're spreading your money across a wide slice of the market. So one bad company having a terrible year doesn't sink your whole plan. That said, every investment carries risk, including the possibility of losing money, and what's right for one person might be completely wrong for another. If you're serious about starting something like this, it's worth talking to a licensed financial advisor who can actually look at your full picture, not just a blog post with some averages in it. The mistakes that quietly ruin this plan. Let's talk about how people mess this up because the math is the easy part. Mistake 1. Stopping during a downturn. Markets drop sometimes, and when they do, it's tempting to pull your money out to stop the bleeding. But selling during a dip locks in the loss and takes you out of the eventual recovery. Mistake 2. Trying to time the market. Waiting for the perfect moment to start almost always means never starting at all. Mistake 3. Obsessively checking the balance. Checking your account every single day turns a 10-year plan into an emotional roller coaster. And emotional decisions rarely help long-term investors. Mistake 4. Treating it like found money. The moment life gets a little tight, that $100 is often the first thing people cut, even though it's usually one of the smallest line items in their whole budget. Mistake 5. Not automating it. If you have to manually decide to invest every single month, willpower eventually loses. Automate it. So the decision only has to be made once. The part that isn't about money at all. Here's something that doesn't show up in any calculator. Investing $100 a month for 10 years builds a habit, and that habit might honestly be worth more than the dollar amount itself. You become someone who pays their future self first. You become someone who doesn't panic when the market wobbles, because you've already lived through a few wobbles and came out fine. You become someone who understands on a gut level what compounding actually feels like instead of just reading about it. That mindset tends to spill over into other parts of life, from how you save to how you spend to how you plan. So, is it worth it? Let's bring this back to the original question. Is $100 a month for 10 years going to make you rich? No, not by itself, and if that's the goal, this article was never going to satisfy you. Is it going to meaningfully change your financial position over the next decade? Very possibly, yes. Turning $12,000 of your own money into somewhere between $16,000 and $23,000, depending on market conditions, isn't nothing. And that's assuming you never increase the amount, which most people naturally do as their income grows. The bigger takeaway here isn't really about the specific dollar figures. It's about proving to yourself that small, boring, consistent action beats waiting around for some perfect financial moment that never actually arrives. 10 years is going to pass either way. The only real question is whether you want to look back at that decade and see $12,000 that just sat there, or $12,000 that grew into something bigger while you weren't even watching closely. That decision starts with $100, and honestly, it starts whenever you decide to make it start.